I'm pleased to welcome you here in the Senate chamber and welcome all Canadians watching by way of television. We are gathered in this historic setting where, on certain occasions, the three component elements of Parliament come together: the Senate, the House of Commons, and the Crown. We do so today to honor the service, contribution, and lives of those former parliamentarians who have departed from us over the past year. Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Je m'appelle Elisabeth Rody.
Welcome, everyone. I am Chief of Protocol here. My name is Elizabeth Rody. I'm delighted to welcome you here at the Senate and to welcome those Canadians who are watching on television. We find ourselves in this historic place where the three components of Parliament meet at times: the Senate, the House of Commons, and the Crown. We're doing this today to remember the service, the contribution, and the life of those parliamentarians who have left us over the course of the last year.
Composed of the Speaker of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Commons, the Honourable Andy Mitchell, President of the Canadian Association of Former Parliamentarians, and former parliamentarians, the Honourable Don Boudria and Marlene Catterall. Mesdames et messieurs,
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the official procession, and please remain standing for the national anthem.
Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
Please be seated. Every year, the Canadian Association of Former Parliamentarians organizes this ceremony, the opportunity to take the time to remember and thank from the bottom of our hearts those women and men, former parliamentarians here in Canada, whom we've lost over the last year. It is appropriate and opportune to remember them today and remember their service and the mark they left on us, on Parliament, and on our country. Ladies and gentlemen, the President, the Speaker of the Senate, the Honourable Leo Housakos.
Très honorable, Mr. Jean Chrétien.
Right Honourable Jean Chrétien, Honourable Senators,
Commons, distinguished guests, dear friends. It is an honor to join with the Canadian Association of Former Parliamentarians in welcoming you all to today's celebration of public lives and public service. Today we remember and honor those who devoted themselves to the betterment of this country through the service right here in Parliament. Some were here but a brief time. Others served decades. sacrificing years away from family, their friends, and community, and to answer a higher calling of public service. Il s'agit d'un moment unique.
This is a unique moment to pay tribute to those who contributed to the history and development of this great country.
A pris plusieurs formes.
They devoted themselves to public life. Some of them sat in cabinet. Others played different roles, such as chairs of committees. These senators and MPs left their mark during their passage in Parliament. Canada has benefited from their experience and their work.
Continue to grieve, though we can share stories about them and reminisce about our times together. Words alone cannot fill the void they have left. I cannot help but think of the recent sudden passing of my predecessor, Mr. Speaker Pierre-Claude Nolin, a dear friend, a mentor, and inspiration to many. His reach extended far beyond just those of us who were privileged to serve with him in this place. Perhaps we can collectively find comfort in the hopes that those who have departed remain with us in some way. Though they are gone, they will never be forgotten for their service to their country. Aujourd'hui, nous célébrons la...
Today, we are celebrating the political commitment of these women and men. They are not here. They did not come here by accident. They believed that they could contribute to improving the quality of life of their fellow citizens. Depending on their involvement, given the nobility of their intentions before their political lives, many parliamentarians set aside enriching careers that they were very successful in. Furthermore, several of them would say that it is sometimes difficult to reconcile the demands of political life and family life. Political life is demanding. The hours of work are very heavy and unpredictable. Let us not forget that partisanship can sometimes be harsh, always passionate, and it can leave scars. The members of the Canadian Association of Former Parliamentarians share this common experience. Let us take advantage of this opportunity to thank these women and men who devoted themselves for the prosperity and democracy and values of our country.
Public service entails. With the focus so often on controversy and sound bites, we often forget that behind every news story there are real people. People who strive to give their best, people who are making incredible personal and often professional sacrifices to do what they feel is right and serve their office and their country. Of course, behind all of them are supporters and unsung heroes. For those we are celebrating, a huge debt of gratitude is owed to the support of the love of parents, spouses, parents, or children. Many of you are here today, and I think I speak for all of us who serve when I say it needs to be said a lot more often. Thank you. Merci. Allow me to
Thank you.
Again to the Parliament, to your Parliament, to celebrate these public lives and their great contribution to public service. We are forever in their debt, and may their memory serve for us as a blessing always. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. I now call upon
Thank you, Speaker.
Chair.
Speaker Housakos, chers ex-parlementaires et collègues distingués,
Former parliamentaries and distinguished guests, today we meet to honor our former colleague.
Canadian Association of Former Parliamentarians, for organizing this annual memorial service. It is indeed a special opportunity to remember and honor the loss of our parliamentary friends and colleagues. Today's ceremony is a celebration of public lives and public service, and a chance for all of us, friends, family, and colleagues, to remember and honor the lives of these men and women who serve their country with such dedication. All of us who get swept up in politics are blessed with a rare opportunity to help serve the public in our country. There are certainly challenging days, time away from home, and the unpredictable stresses that can come with being a public figure. But despite all of that, there are certainly many more good days than bad. C'est un rythme de vie effréné où les semaines deviennent
It is a hectic pace. Weeks become months and months become years. All of a sudden, before you've understood what's happening to you, before you have the opportunity to savor your time here in Parliament, it's once again time for elections. Those parliamentarians who have the opportunity to come back often are faced with new colleagues and often lose track of their former friends who've gone off to rise to other challenges elsewhere.
end up not having a chance to say goodbye. As we approach the election in the fall, we know that there are many of our colleagues who will not seek nomination and others who may fall short in their attempts at re-election. Solemn occasions like this remind us to value the time that we have together as colleagues while we can. Indeed, it is with a heavy heart that I read the names of those parliamentarians we honor today. I had the good fortune to serve alongside several of these fine men and women, including, of course, the Honourable Pierre-Claude Nolin, who I worked closely with in his capacity as Speaker of the Senate. All parliamentarians, past and present, share a special bond and kinship forged by the intensity of our shared experience. This bond truly transcends our partisan leanings and helps us come together in good times and in bad. On behalf of all members of the House of Commons, I offer my sincerest condolences on the passing of our dear friends and colleagues, parliamentarians who sought to make their country a better place. We are the poorer for their departure, but the richer for the time that they were able to share. J'offre mes condoléances les plus sincères à tous.
I offer my deepest sympathy to all of those who are grieving. We share this grief with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Le président de l'Association canadienne,
President of the Canadian Association of Former Parliamentarians, the Honourable Andrew Mitchell, will now speak to us.
the Honourable Andy Mitchell.
Right Honourable Jean Chrétien, former Prime Minister of Canada, Speaker Housakos, Speaker Scheer, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I am honoured to lead my colleagues in remembering the contribution of former parliamentarians at the annual memorial service. This ceremony provides an opportunity to recognize their contribution to Canada and to provide their families an opportunity to honour their lives in the Parliament that they helped shape. We all are enriched by their accomplishments in the service of our country. John Ferguson Brown was part of what some called the greatest generation, serving with distinction in the Canadian Army in Europe during World War II, for which he was awarded several decorations. Pierre Bussière
greatly contributed to the economic welfare of Quebec and of Canada as a minister.
Was a Navy cadet, a Hudson's Bay boy, and a dedicated civil servant in addition to his parliamentary career. Roland de Cornay was born in
Roland de Cornay
1953 and was ordained an Anglican priest that same year and was dedicated to interfaith dialogue. Maurice Dumas
was an ardent defender of the rights of seniors. Aurélien Gil was an ardent defender of Aboriginal rights. He held several important positions within Aboriginal associations and communities. Robert Gourde was known for his joie de vivre and his sense of humor. He was a prosperous businessman and a mentor for SMEs. He recently sat on the Joint International Commission.
Government leader in the Senate and participated in many international election observation missions and was an advocate for inclusive communities for adults with special needs. He was a friend and a mentor. Raymond Gravel fut le premier.
Raymond Gravel was the first Quebec priest elected to the House of Commons, and he defended suicide. He combated suicide. Michel Guimont contributed to municipal political life in Quebec, and as a federal MP, he defended seasonal workers.
Harley was a respected physician and a stalwart of the Salvation Army's Grace Hospital. Robert Hicks had a long and successful career as an educator before his parliamentary service. He was a generous person, always thinking of others, especially kids in needs. Seema Holt was known as a tough reporter when she covered the traditionally male waterfront crime beat and was inducted into the Canadian News Hall of Fame, the first female journalist in BC to receive the distinction. She was also the first woman of the Jewish faith elected to Parliament. Ken James was a farmer and businessman who first entered politics at the Sarnia Township Council. Archie Johnstone was a World War II veteran, where he served as a tail gunner on bombers and became a businessman before he was called to the Senate. William Kelly served as an officer in the 2nd Field Engineers Regiment and built a career as an engineer and consultant in the energy industry. Marcel Masse était un professeur.
Marcel Masse was a respected history teacher. He was a member of the National Assembly of Quebec and a member of the federal cabinet.
Talented athlete. Pierre-Claude Nolin.
Pierre-Claude Nolin spent too little time as the very respected Speaker of the Senate.
Course, and he loved this place. Louis Sherman was a Canadian Army officer and a distinguished journalist. Eric Spicer was a decorated war veteran and an honorary member of our association, as well as of the Senate and House, and was the parliamentary librarian from 1960 until his retirement in 1994. Richard Stanbury was a respected lawyer who sat on many national and international boards before being appointed to the Senate, where he served for 30 years. Christine Stewart was a nurse dedicated to international development and served as a cabinet minister and then as a special envoy to Cameroon for the Commonwealth Secretary General. She was one of the most gracious people I've ever known. Bernard Saint-Laurent.
Bernard Saint-Laurent was a municipal politician and a correctional service officer.
Was a devoted advocate and consultant on issues affecting persons with disabilities. On behalf of all, I extend condolences to the family and friends of the departed, and in closing, want to leave you with a selected verse from a poem, When Great Trees Fall by Maya Angelou. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Space is filled with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us. They existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Mitchell. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Brown, the major bagpiper and the brass quintet of the Canadian Forces.
The brass quintet of the Central Band of the Canadian Armed Forces, Highland Cathedral. Je demanderai maintenant à Monsieur Jean Martin
I would now ask Mr. Jean Martin Mas, son of late Marcel Mas, and Jacqueline Day, granddaughter of Richard Stanbury, to read two texts to us.
Thérèse Casgrain,
Thérèse Casgrain, future senator, speaking to the Women's Rights League on April 25, 1941, exactly 1 year after the right to vote was granted to women in Quebec. It is not by drawing borders on maps, nor by lauding a country with rhetoric and appropriateness in speeches that you shape your country, but rather in engraving its borders in the spirit and soul of our children. Patriotism is not and was never a matter of rhetoric and appropriateness. It is an undefinable emotion that moves us when a foreigner states the name of our country. It's an immeasurable euphoria that rises up in us when we tread on our native land, when we smell it, and when its contours and reliefs seem to be the extension of ourselves.
Thomas Darcy McGee, future father of Confederation. I look to the future of my adopted country with hope. I see in the not remote distance one great nationality bound, like the shield of Achilles, by the blue rim of ocean. I see it quartered into many communities, each disposing of its internal affairs, but all bound together by free institutions, free intercourse, and free commerce. I see within the ground of that shield the peaks of the western mountains and the crest of the eastern waves, the winding Assiniboine, the fivefold lakes, the St. Lawrence, the Ottawa, the Assiniboine, the St. John's, and the basin of Minas. By all these flowing waters, in all the valleys they fertilize, in all the cities they visit in their courses, I see a generation of industrious, contented, moral men and women, free in name and in fact, men and women capable of maintaining, in peace and in war, a constitution worthy of such a great country.
Madame Marlene Catterall va maintenant.
Ms. Marlene Catterall will now lead the prayer.
Please bow your heads. We thank you, God, for the colleagues to whose memory and service we pay tribute today. We thank the families and friends who are with us today to help us remember their loved ones. They too have made a tremendous contribution of time apart and experiences not shared with a father or mother, a sister or brother, a son or daughter, a wife or a husband. We
are grateful for having shared with these loved ones the noblest of causes, that of representing and serving Canadians and our country within our Parliament. It is a rare privilege that we will always cherish. By paying tribute to them today, we also honor those who went before, those who contributed to shaping the country we live in, a country founded on values common to all denominations: compassion, understanding, respect of differences, and support for those in need.
And those who have and who will come after us, continue in the path laid out by those we remember today, that this country represent to the world a voice for peace, a place of refuge and opportunity, a helping hand and defender in times of turmoil or deprivation. These we honor today were dedicated to serving their country and our world is a better place for those who come after. And each in his or her own way contributed to that. We pray today that our service too will be deemed as worthy as theirs of the prayers and appreciation of colleagues and our fellow Canadians. Amen.
Les hommes et les femmes dont nous honorons le service
The men and women we salute today each contributed in their way to peace and to the prosperity Canadians enjoy today. They deserve that we count them among those who shaped Canada. Ladies and gentlemen,
quand les hommes vivront d'amour.
Ottawa.
the Ottawa Police Choir.
Et comme
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Don Boudria will lead us in the reading of the honor roll call.
Would the family members and representatives of the deceased members being remembered today please rise as the names of the deceased is read, and we ask them to remain standing until after the lament is played and the wreath is presented by our speakers. Que les représentants des familles des personnes décédées.
The representatives of the families of those deceased during the year, please rise when the name of the deceased is stated, and we would ask that you remain standing until the lament and the presentation of the crown of flowers by the speakers of the two houses.
Brown. L'honorable Pierre Buissière. Mr. Andrew Chatwood. The Reverend Roland de Corneille. Monsieur Maurice Dumas. L'honorable Aurélien Gill. Monsieur Robert Gour. The Honorable Alistair Graham. L'Abbé Raymond Gravel. Monsieur Michel Guimont. Dr. Harry Harley. Mr. Robert Hicks. Ms. Seema Holt. Mr. Kenneth James. The Honorable Archibald Johnstone. The Honorable William Kelly. L'Honorable Marcel Masse. Mr. Ronald McClelland. L'Honorable Pierre-Claude Nolin. Mr. Louis Bud Sherman. Mr. Eric Spicer. The Honorable Richard Stanbury. The Honorable Christine Stewart. Monsieur Bernard Saint-Laurent. Mr. Neil Young.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the lament and the laying of the wreath by the speakers of the Senate and the House of Commons. Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
Please be seated.
We are truly honored to have so many family members with us today to pay tribute to your loved ones. In you, we see the same sense of dedication, of purpose, of service, and of pride in what we as people and as a country we have built together and will continue to build. In this regard, the circle of life continues. Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, the
Ladies and gentlemen,
small step.
I can see a world of one great family, living in peace and
Notre cérémonie touche maintenant à sa fin.
Our ceremony is drawing to a close. I would like to thank you for your participation. A reception will follow in the Senate foyer. I would ask that the families remain in the Senate chamber for the photo session before moving on to the reception.
Thank you for your participation. A reception will follow in the Senate foyer. I invite members of the families to remain in the chamber for the photo session. Please rise for the royal anthem and remain standing for the departure of the official party.